Have you ever looked up at a helicopter hovering over a city skyline and wondered, how much money does it actually take to own one of those? It looks effortless as it lands on a rooftop, rescues people from disasters, transports executives to meetings, or carries tourists over breathtaking landscapes. But behind every smooth landing is an expensive machine that can cost more to operate in a single hour than many people spend on their entire monthly expenses. Yet despite these enormous costs, thousands of helicopter owners and companies continue buying them every year because, for the right purpose, a helicopter can become an incredibly valuable investment. So, is owning a helicopter a luxury reserved only for billionaires, or can it actually make financial sense? Let's break down the real economics behind helicopter ownership. Welcome back to Raymap's Profit Lab. If you enjoy learning about the economics behind aviation, billion-dollar industries, and how complex businesses really work, you're in the right place. Consider subscribing and turning on notifications so you never miss our future documentaries. Now, let's get started. A helicopter is one of the most unique aircraft ever invented. Unlike airplanes, which need long runways to take off and land, helicopters can lift straight into the air, hover in one position, move sideways, and land almost anywhere with enough clear space. That single advantage changes everything. It allows helicopters to reach mountain villages, offshore oil platforms, hospitals, construction sites, forests, and disaster zones where ordinary airplanes simply cannot operate. This flexibility explains why helicopters remain essential even in an era filled with advanced private jets. While a jet may be faster, a helicopter can often deliver passengers much closer to their final destination. Imagine an executive flying from Los Angeles to a meeting in downtown Manhattan. A private jet can cover the long distance much faster, but once it lands at a major airport, ground traffic becomes another challenge. A helicopter can pick up that passenger and fly directly to a nearby rooftop helipad, saving valuable time. In business, time itself is often worth millions of dollars. But before anyone dreams of buying a helicopter, the first question is obvious. How much does one actually cost? The answer depends entirely on the type of helicopter. A small, older piston-powered helicopter suitable for private flying might sell for around $300,000. Newer models from manufacturers such as Robinson can range from roughly $400,000 to nearly $1 million, depending on equipment and configuration. Move into turbine-powered helicopters used by corporations, emergency medical services, law enforcement, or offshore operations, and prices quickly climb into several $1 million. Larger luxury helicopters can easily exceed $10 million before adding optional equipment or customized interiors. Many first-time buyers focus only on the purchase price, but experienced owners know that buying the helicopter is only the beginning. The real economics begin after the aircraft arrives. Unlike a car that might sit in your garage for weeks without much attention, a helicopter demands constant maintenance. Every flight hour adds where to highly engineered components that must be inspected, repaired, or replaced according to strict schedules. Aviation authorities require maintenance intervals that cannot simply be ignored because safety always comes first. A simple oil change that costs less than $100 for a family car becomes a completely different story in aviation. Helicopter maintenance often involves highly trained technicians, specialized tools, certified replacement parts, and detailed inspections. Even if nothing appears broken, components are frequently replaced simply because they have reached their approved service life. One of the biggest financial surprises for new owners is something called component overhaul. Certain parts, including the engine, transmission, rotor blades, and gearbox, have maximum operating hours. Once those limits are reached, the parts must either be overhauled or replaced regardless of how well they seem to be performing. An overhaul can cost tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars depending on the helicopter model. Fuel is another major expense. Most modern turbine helicopters burn aviation turbine fuel, while some smaller helicopters use aviation gasoline. Depending on the helicopter, fuel consumption can range from roughly 20 gallons per hour for smaller piston helicopters to well over 100 gallons per hour for larger turbine aircraft. Multiply that by current fuel prices, and operating costs rise very quickly. Insurance is another unavoidable cost. Because helicopters are valuable machines operating in demanding environments, insurance premiums are significantly higher than most people expect. The owner's experience, intended use, location, and total aircraft value all influence the annual premium. A pilot with thousands of flight hours will usually pay less than someone purchasing their first helicopter. Storage is equally important. Helicopters cannot simply be parked anywhere. Most owners rent hangar space at airports or helicopter facilities to protect the aircraft from weather, vandalism, and unnecessary wear. Depending on location, hangar fees can range from a few $100s each month to several $1,000s in major metropolitan areas where airport space is extremely limited. Then there are pilot costs. Unless the owner is already qualified and current to fly helicopters, a professional pilot will likely be required. Experienced commercial helicopter pilots command competitive salaries, particularly those qualified to operate sophisticated turbine helicopters in demanding conditions. When all these expenses are combined, aviation experts often estimate helicopter operating costs on an hourly basis. Depending on the aircraft, direct operating costs can range from a few $100s per flight hour for smaller helicopters to well over $2,000 per hour for larger turbine models. That figure includes fuel, maintenance reserves, inspections, and other operating expenses, but it still may not include every indirect cost associated with ownership. At this point, many people naturally ask another question. If helicopters are so expensive, why not simply buy a private jet instead? The answer depends entirely on the mission. A private jet is designed for speed and long-distance travel. It can cruise hundreds of miles per hour, carry passengers across several states in a single trip, and reach destinations that would take a helicopter many more hours to complete. For someone regularly traveling between cities such as New York, Chicago, Dallas, or Miami, a private jet often becomes the more efficient choice. However, helicopters solve a completely different transportation problem. They are built for accessibility rather than speed. If your destination is a hospital rooftop, an offshore drilling platform, a remote mountain resort, a construction project in the middle of a city, or an isolated ranch without a runway, the helicopter becomes the only practical option. This difference also affects the economics. Jets generally require larger initial investments, longer runways, and larger airports. Helicopters are usually less expensive to purchase than similarly equipped business jets, but they often have higher operating costs relative to the distance they travel. In other words, a helicopter may cost less to buy, but each mile traveled can become surprisingly expensive compared to a jet flying efficiently over long distances. That is why successful helicopter owners rarely think of the aircraft as just transportation. They think of it as a specialized tool that solves problems no other machine can solve. Whether saving lives through emergency medical transport, inspecting power lines, fighting wildfires, transporting workers to offshore energy platforms, or giving tourists unforgettable aerial views, the helicopter creates value that often justifies its remarkable cost. Owning a helicopter is not as simple as purchasing the aircraft and flying away. There is a detailed process that every serious owner must follow before operating one. The first step is choosing the right helicopter for the mission. A private owner who wants short personal trips does not need the same aircraft as an oil company transporting workers to offshore platforms or a hospital operating an emergency medical helicopter. The wrong choice can turn an expensive aircraft into a financial burden. After selecting the aircraft, the owner must deal with registration, certifications, insurance, and compliance with aviation regulations. In the United States, every helicopter must be registered with the Federal Aviation Administration, commonly known as the FAA. The aircraft must meet strict safety requirements, and maintenance records must be carefully maintained throughout its entire life. Pilot is another important part of helicopter ownership. Flying a helicopter requires specialized training because the controls and flying techniques are very different from fixed-wing airplanes. A private helicopter owner must obtain the correct pilot certification, complete training, and maintain flying experience. For those who do not want to become pilots themselves, hiring a professional pilot is another option, but that adds another major annual expense. Some owners also try to generate income from their helicopters. Instead of using the aircraft only for personal transportation, they may operate charter services, provide aerial photography, support construction projects, transport executives, or lease the helicopter to companies that need aviation services. For example, a helicopter used for tourism in areas with popular attractions can generate revenue through sightseeing flights. Helicopters used for medical transport, law enforcement, and industrial operations can also become profitable business assets when managed correctly. However, making money with a helicopter requires more than simply owning one. The aircraft must be properly maintained, operated legally, and managed like a business. Many private owners discover that an aircraft sitting and used is not an investment. It is an expensive machine, losing value every month. Depreciation is another important factor. Like most aircraft, helicopters usually lose value over time. A brand new helicopter can lose a significant percentage of its value during the first years of ownership. The condition of the aircraft, maintenance history, flight hours, and market demand all determine its resale price. This is why experienced owners pay close attention to maintenance records. A well-maintained helicopter with complete documentation can maintain its value much better than an aircraft that has been neglected. So, is owning a helicopter a good financial decision? For most people, the answer is no. If the main goal is simply traveling from one city to another, commercial flights, private jet charters, or other transportation options are usually more economical. But for certain individuals and businesses, a helicopter can create enormous value. A billionaire saving hours of travel time, a company reaching remote locations, a hospital saving lives, or an energy company accessing offshore facilities may find that the benefits outweigh the costs. The economics of helicopter ownership are not about buying the cheapest aircraft. They are about understanding the purpose behind a machine. A helicopter is not just a luxury item. It is a specialized tool designed to provide speed, access, and flexibility where ordinary transportation cannot compete. The biggest mistake new owners make is focusing only on the purchase price. The real cost of ownership comes from maintenance, fuel, insurance, storage, pilots, and unexpected repairs. Those who understand these costs before buying are far more likely to enjoy the benefits of helicopter ownership. In the end, a helicopter represents something more than transportation. It represents the ability to move when roads, airports, and traditional methods are not enough. For the right person, organization, or business, that capability can be worth millions of dollars. And that is the true economics behind owning a helicopter.